A man stared down in confusion at the strange creature, blocking his path in the ruins of the city. He raised a heavy metal pipe and prepared to swing with everything he had left in his body. The little fluff ball just sat there looking like the most innocent thing ever created in this world. Suddenly its eyes popped open, and it let out a tiny and very cute little blink at him. Within seconds, the man was face down in a pool of blood, with fluff balls surrounding his corpse. These yellow creatures swarm across every corner of the decimated city landscape, while survivors hide in fear from the fuzzy threat. This was the start of the cute war, and nobody was actually prepared for the true horror ahead. Our boy Kangwoo sat alone in his room, staring out the window at the ruined world outside his apartment. His eyes were filled with a mix of exhaustion and deep-seated trauma from what he witnessed that day. The once thriving streets are now nothing more than a graveyard filled with silence and the remains of the fallen victims. Everything felt like a lifetime ago back, when Kangwoo was just a happy and ambitious university graduate. His parents were so proud that day, snapping photos and making sure the university logo was visible. Our protagonist looked up in surprise when something unusual caught his attention during the happy family celebration. High above the brick buildings, a faint shimmering light started to descend from the clear blue sky. The family laughed together, enjoying the moment, while their small white dog joined in the festive graduation fun. Their little dog started licking his face, making everyone smile at how wholesome the entire afternoon felt. But the mood shifted instantly as the dog started acting wild and barking aggressively at the sky. His mother expresses her growing concern about the strange atmosphere, while the family pet continues to act out in visible fear. A stray cat suddenly leaped onto the sidewalk with its hair standing straight up in pure fear. Our boy pointed toward the street as more animals began to flee from an unseen approaching threat. The cat's eyes started to glow with a strange, unnatural light, as if it sensed something terrible coming. His mom spotted a tiny yellow fluff ball on the ground and thought it was absolutely adorable. She smiled down at the creature, thinking it was just a lost toy or a harmless little animal. Kangwoo felt a chill down his spine and realized something was deeply wrong with that little thing. Before he could even shout a warning, a massive spike erupted through her chest in a flash. Both the father and our protagonist froze in absolute horror as blood splattered across the pavement. A massive shockwave suddenly sends the entire family flying through the air as the situation spirals into absolute madness on the campus. Another spike tore through the air and ended his father's life right in front of his eyes. Our boy let out a soul-crushing scream as he watched his entire world crumble into bloody pieces. Total panic erupted on the campus as people were being hunted down by those cute little killers. He stood there paralyzed with fear, unable to process the nightmare unfolding around him on graduation day. His father reached out one last time, while blood pooled around him on the brick campus walkway. One of those yellow monsters landed right on his father's head to finish the job without mercy. Tears streamed down his face as the reality of losing both parents sank into his shattered mind. He finally found the strength to turn and run for his life away from the graduation slaughter. Back in the present, he sat on the floor of his darkened apartment, haunted by those memories. He remembered the news footage of the military trying to fight back against the endless yellow swarm. Even after all this time, the pain of that day remained just as fresh and agonizing for him. Our protagonist stayed curled up on the floor, feeling like there was no hope left for humanity. The apartment complex where he hid was one of the few places that still felt somewhat safe. He forced himself to eat a small piece of food just to keep his body from failing entirely. Looking outside, he saw the monsters still patrolling the streets like they owned the entire world now. He tried to distract himself with books, but the silence of the apartment was deafening and heavy. Every noise from the hallway made him jump, wondering if his door would be the next target. Some of the other survivors were gathered in the hallway, whispering about their dwindling supplies and options. Our boy watched them from a distance, not wanting to get involved in their petty survival drama. An arrogant-looking guy approached him with a smirk that proved he had no idea about reality. This idiot was showing off his new girlfriend, while the world literally burned outside their front door. Our protagonist looked at them with pure disgust, wondering how anyone could be this shallow right now. The system labeled them as the idiot and the idiot's girl, which was honestly quite fitting. They were talking about some nonsense while the atmosphere in the building grew more tense by the hour. The loud-mouthed guy kept pestering him, trying to act like he was the boss of the floor. He bragged about how he watched summaries of the invasion online, as if that made him an expert. His name was Sangyun, and he was clearly the type of guy who would betray anyone to survive. A mother and her young son walked past them looking exhausted and terrified for their own futures. The woman started complaining about the noise, not realizing how lucky she was to even be alive. Instead of de-escalating the situation, the aggressive father starts shouting back at the woman to release his own pent-up stress. The system identified them as Tae-young and his parents, who seemed like a very stressed-out group. Our boy gripped his glasses in frustration, as these people argued over nothing while monsters were outside. Someone placed a hand on his shoulder, pulling him back from his dark and spiraling angry thoughts. It was an elderly man who looked like he had seen far too much during his long life. He whispered something about the true nature of the creatures that made Kang-woo pause and listen. The system simply called him Grandpa, but he clearly had more wisdom than the rest of them. The old man stepped between the arguing neighbors, trying to bring some peace to the chaotic hallway. The hot-headed father loses his patience and violently shoves the old man aside just to prove he is in charge. That was the final straw for our boy, as his eyes filled with a cold and dangerous fury. He rushed over to help the old man up while shooting a death glare at the bully. The elderly man looked down in shame, apologizing for causing trouble even though he did nothing wrong. The survivors moved their petty argument up to the rooftop, which has now become a cluttered graveyard for abandoned furniture. Kang-woo rubbed his head, trying to figure out how he ended up stuck with such terrible people. Down on the ground, below, more bodies were being picked over by those fluffy yellow nightmares. The family remains paralyzed by their own grief, while the shallow couple continues to flirt as if the world isn't ending. On the street, two of the creatures started to glow and merge together into something even worse. Our boy looked out over the edge, cursing the screwed-up world that he was forced into. One of the creatures stared back up at the building with those big, cute eyes of death. Horrifying organic pods begin to pulse and burst open as more of the creatures crawl out to join the pack. Kang-woo looks on with his usual exhausted expression, like he has seen it all before. Suddenly, a siren blares loudly, cutting through the silence of the abandoned street. His friend grabs him, and they rush to the edge to see what is coming. A massive yellow utility truck smashes through the wreckage and debris like it is nothing. Those little yellow puffball monsters are just standing there looking confused as death approaches. The truck does not slow down one bit as it plows straight toward the pack. It is a total massacre as the creatures pop into pink mist under the heavy tires. The driver slams on the brakes, and soldiers start jumping out of the cabin immediately. Meet the army cockroach unit, the only guys crazy enough to handle this mess. Kang-woo and his buddy are completely stunned by the sudden arrival of actual help. A massive ladder extends from the truck, reaching all the way up the apartment building. A soldier stands on the platform with his rifle ready to take out any stragglers. The remaining monsters start charging forward, but they have no idea what is coming next. Gunfire erupts, and the creatures are shredded into pink paint in a matter of seconds. The soldier on the lift is a total pro, picking them off one by one. He keeps his aim steady and his finger on the trigger until the area is clear. Our boy Kang-woo watches the display of power with wide eyes and a bit of hope. Other survivors are gathering around, and they are actually complaining that the rescue feels old-fashioned. Everyone lines up to see what kind of supplies the military brought for them today. A mother tries to comfort her hungry child, who is clearly at his breaking point. Kang-woo notices the tension in the air as people realize the supplies are limited. The lead soldier steps forward and announces he has some news before handing out rations. The crowd goes silent, wondering what could possibly be more important than food and water. He opens the boxes and reveals that the only food they have is fresh cucumbers. Our boy and his friend just stare at the green veggies, feeling a bit disappointed. The crowd starts losing their minds, asking who can even survive on just cucumbers for a week. The kid starts crying even harder, and his parents are screaming at the soldier for the lack of real food. Tae-young's dad gets right in the face of the soldier, demanding better treatment for everyone. The soldier does not even flinch behind his visor, while the man keeps shouting at him. He starts throwing a full-blown tantrum, acting like he is the one in charge here. This guy really thinks he can bully an armed soldier into magically producing more food. His face is red with rage as he keeps yelling about his rights and his hunger. The soldier loses his patience and strikes the man across the head with enough force to shut him up instantly. He stands over the fallen man with his pistol drawn to show everyone that the laws of the old world are officially dead. His friend is shaking like a leaf, but our boy keeps his cool and observes. The soldier tells the man to step back if he wants to stay alive today. An older man tries to clear his throat and de-escalate the situation before someone dies. The soldier puts his gun away and tells everyone that this is all they get. He looks around the group and asks if anyone else has a problem with the rations. The soldier hops back onto the mechanical lift and lets the survivors know they will not be back for another week. He barks out orders for his team to retract the ladder and prepare the massive truck for the next deployment. Kang-woo and his buddy watch the only source of protection drive away into the fog. Kang-woo stares into the distance, while a sickly cough reminds him that they are far from being safe. The old man starts coughing, and Kang-woo reaches out to help him steady himself. These few green cucumbers and small bottles of water represent the only hope for survival they have for the coming days. The woman keeps yelling that she hates cucumbers, while her kid just keeps on sobbing. She is having a complete breakdown, on the floor wondering how they will ever make it. Our boy decides he has seen enough and starts walking away from the dramatic scene. He stops for a second and turns back toward the mother and her crying son. Kang-woo kneels down and hands over his entire bag of rations to the little kid. The ungrateful woman stands there looking annoyed as she asks him what he thinks he is doing. He does not even give her an answer and just keeps walking toward his apartment. His friend and the lady in the pink shirt are completely baffled by his generosity. He finally gets back to his apartment and starts feasting on the fresh cucumbers that the woman earlier rejected. He sits down in his living room, looking a bit tired from all the walking. Kang-woo grabs a huge bottle of water and starts chugging it like it is nothing. Check out his fridge, because it is packed tight with hundreds of fresh water bottles. He even has enough water to take a full bath using a bucket in his tub. Our boy was smart and installed solar panels on his balcony for unlimited free power. He also has a row of high-end air purifiers running to keep the air clean. Even his water dispenser is fully loaded and ready to serve him whenever he wants. He looks at his massive stockpile of supplies and realizes he is more than fine. For some reason, he just can't stop thinking about that crying kid from the line. A flicker of guilt crosses his face as he realizes how much he actually has. He tries to distract himself by reading a book while crouching on the floor. Down on the street, two of the creatures start to glow and merge together into something worse. His stomach growls, and he realizes that even he has to eat eventually. He tells himself that he should not have even talked to those people in line. He looks at his massive stockpile and realizes that he never actually had a reason to care about ration day before. He lays back on the sofa and covers his face with the book to nap. Silence fills the room, but you can tell he is not actually asleep yet. He is just trying to block out the world and find some peace in his fortress. Suddenly, he hears a strange scratching sound coming from somewhere inside the dark apartment. He slowly lowers the book as he tries to identify the source of the strange, rustling sound coming from the room. He jumps back in absolute horror as he sees a bloody monster standing in his kitchen. The creature stares back at him with those big, cute eyes of death right in his home. Our boy Kang-woo is just trying to have a normal night when this tiny marshmallow thing appears out of nowhere. At first glance, it looks like a harmless plushie, but wait a minute, why does it have blood on its face? Kang-woo starts backing up immediately because his survival instincts are screaming that something is very wrong here. Outside in the hallway, the building looks like a ghost town, with yellow barricades blocking the path to Unit 102. The window is slightly ajar, letting in the chilling night air, as the tension in the room starts to peak. Every single lock on the door is fastened tight, because whatever is happening out there is clearly a nightmare. These little monsters are everywhere now, literally bouncing through the streets, like a twisted version of a cartoon. Back in the apartment, our protagonist locks eyes with the intruder trying to figure out his next move. He tries to maintain his distance, slowly inching toward the kitchen, while keeping his gaze fixed on the creature. Kang-woo tells himself that he just needs to back up a little more to reach a safe spot. His eyes dart toward the remote on the table, thinking it might be his only chance at a weapon. The marshmallow monster starts creeping forward with this eerie silence that would make anyone's skin crawl. Suddenly, the thing launches itself into the air, making a high-pitched sound that sounds way too cute for a killer. Our boy does not hesitate and lands a solid punch, sending the intruder flying across the room. It crashes into the table with a loud thud scattering kitchen supplies everywhere as Kang-woo catches his breath. The creature starts making these pathetic crying noises, and even starts tearing up like it is the victim here. He starts to feel a pang of guilt for hitting something that looks so pathetic, and asks the little monster if it is actually okay. He lowers his guard for just a second because he is a good guy at heart and hates seeing things suffer. He begins to wonder if his own relatives who have gone missing might have ended up as victims just like this poor creature. Kang-woo stares back in confusion as the cute atmosphere suddenly starts to feel heavy with a hidden danger. Thinking he can offer some comfort, he slowly reaches out his hand to touch the seemingly harmless marshmallow thing. The creature's eyes suddenly turn into bottomless black pits as its cute facade completely disappears in an instant. Without warning, the monster launches into a lightning-fast attack and slashes a deep wound across his neck. The little beast becomes a whirlwind of death as it repeatedly hacks away at him and sprays blood all over the room. The stinging pain from the deep cuts actually snaps him back to reality and forces him to get serious about this fight. He barely manages to dive out of the way as the creature smashes through his furniture with terrifying physical strength. Kang-woo finds his second wind and lunges forward with a look of pure fury in his eyes to turn the tides. He desperately reaches out for the remote control on the floor, hoping it can give him some kind of edge. He manages to grab a motorized fan blade and sets it spinning at top speed to act as a makeshift shield. The spinning blade catches the monster midair and creates a massive explosion of sparks as they collide with extreme force. Even after taking that heavy blow, the monster lands gracefully on its feet and prepares for its next lethal strike. The two of them engage in a high-speed battle as our boy uses every piece of equipment he can grab to stay alive. Kang-woo becomes a human blender as he frantically swings kitchen utensils to keep the bloodthirsty creature at a distance. He realizes he needs a real weapon and prepares to use a canister of fuel to end this fight once and for all. The monster's eyes glow a demonic red as it launches itself into the air for one final attempt to rip his throat out. Kang-woo times his move perfectly and blasts a massive stream of fire directly into the path of the jumping beast. The marshmallow monster is instantly swallowed by the intense heat and lets out a final screech as it begins to melt. He stares at the growing fire with a look of pure exhaustion while making sure that the nightmare is finally over. All that remains of the intruder is a disgusting pile of melted goo smoking on the apartment floor. This is just the beginning of a brutal conflict where humanity must fight a literal war against the cute. The military establishes a temporary base of operations at a local garage to handle the rapidly spreading monster infestation. The locker room is filled with heavy silence as these soldiers prepare to face an enemy they barely understand. An officer stops by to personally thank Sergeant Kim for the incredible work he put in during the last dangerous mission. The sergeant isn't interested in any empty praise and tells his superior to just get straight to the point. He listens intently as the commanding officer explains that the situation outside is far worse than they initially feared. The veteran soldier realizes that there is only one way to deal with this crisis, and it involves a lot of firepower. A heavy silence fills the locker room as both men process the impossible odds of their next deployment into the city. Exhausted from the constant fighting, Sergeant Kim finally begins to strip off his heavy combat gear to take a breather. His blood-stained vest and helmet serve as a grim reminder of how many close calls he had while out on the front lines. Meet Lieutenant Go-hee of the Army Cockroach Unit, who is easily the most dangerous woman currently on the battlefield. Back at his apartment, Kang-woo is struggling to breathe while covered in the disgusting remains of the creature he just killed. He manages to shove the mangled remains of the monster into a sturdy orange trash bag to hide the evidence of the fight. The adrenaline finally wears off, and our boy starts gagging from the absolute stench and horror of the situation. Holding the bag as far away from his body as possible, he prepares to get rid of the trash and face his new reality. The overwhelming stench of the monster's remains makes Kang-woo wince in disgust as he carries the bag toward the door. He stands there for a moment with a weary expression, realizing that his hope for a quiet life is officially over. Even from inside the bag, the creature's silhouette looks hauntingly familiar, and he cannot stop staring. He collapses onto the floor and tries to process the absolute madness that just took place inside his own home. Even with the creature dead, he cannot stop staring at the bag and wondering if more of them are coming for him. He touches the fresh bandage on his neck and realizes just how close he actually came to meeting a gruesome end tonight. Our boy eventually heads outside and finds a group of weary survivors gathered in the courtyard looking for any kind of help. He walks past the group with a tired expression, knowing that every single person here has a nightmare story of their own. A young boy bows and thanks him for the water, as Kang-woo realizes that helping others might give him a reason to fight. Seeing the kid show such genuine gratitude is a rare moment of humanity in the middle of this absolute disaster. But not everyone is feeling friendly, because a paranoid woman quickly pulls her child away from Kang-woo and glares. The guy in the red tracksuit tries to play it cool and laughs off the insane danger they just survived, while everyone else stays on edge. He gives a friendly wave like they are old buddies, but the tension in the air remains thick and uncomfortable. Kang-woo isn't in the mood for jokes and gives the guy a weary look as he tries to ignore the forced positivity. Nearby, a man in a blue shirt is getting aggressive and shouting, while his girlfriend desperately tries to hold him back. She looks completely exhausted and embarrassed by her boyfriend's loud outburst as she tries to calm him down in the courtyard. An old man watches the chaos unfold with a heavy heart, knowing that things are only going to get worse from here. Tensions finally boil over as the survivors start arguing about someone being greedy with the limited food rations they have left. Kang-woo catches something moving out of the corner of his eye, and his entire face freezes with pure shock. The couple shares a brief moment of relief, and even smiles, thinking that they might have actually survived the worst of the ordeal. Out of nowhere, a creepy little fluff ball appears on the pavement, and it is already covered in fresh, dark blood. Kang-woo's face freezes in absolute terror as he witnesses a horrific turn of events right in front of the group. Before the man in the blue shirt can even react, he is suddenly sprayed with a fountain of blood as the creature strikes him down. Kang-woo pushes his body to the absolute limit, because he knows that staying in this open area means certain death for him. He looks back over his shoulder, just in time to see his neighbors falling behind in the middle of the blind panic. Monsters begin to swarm the area, and Kang-woo realizes he has to move faster if he wants to make it out alive. A massive swarm of those fluffy monsters starts raining down from the building like a deadly waterfall of fur. As Kang-woo bolts for safety, one of the creatures lunges from the sky and nearly lands right on top of him. A gunshot rings out, and the fluffy monster is blown apart midair, just inches away from our protagonist's face. A soldier in heavy tactical gear stays focused while aiming his rifle to provide cover fire for the fleeing civilians. The courtyard descends into total chaos as the military tries to clear the area while people scream about their lost food. The young girl desperately tries to pull her boyfriend to safety while he cries out in pain from his bloody injuries. An old man pushes himself to the limit as he runs across the courtyard to escape the madness behind him. Kang-woo and the man in the tracksuit sprint toward the building entrance with everything they have left in their tanks. The soldiers keep their weapons raised while scanning the perimeter to ensure no more of those monsters are lurking nearby. Our hero finally makes it inside and slams the door shut while gasping for air after the terrifying sprint for his life. Once he catches his breath, he suddenly remembers that he is still carrying something very important from the grocery store. He stands in his dark kitchen, holding the plastic bag that is now heavily stained with mysterious orange fluids and grime. He reaches into the bag and carefully pulls out the small creature he managed to keep hidden through all the chaos. His eyes go wide with total shock as he gets a better look at what he actually brought home with him. Back in the courtyard, the soldiers look down at the remains of the fluff balls and confirm the area is clear. The squad members stay alert and communicate through their headsets while surveying the aftermath of the bloody skirmish in the street. The female soldier looks completely exhausted and shaken by the intense pressure of dealing with these strange entities in the courtyard. Back in the safety of his home, Kang-woo breaks into a cold sweat while staring at the tiny monster in his hands. He looks down at the creature's tiny pink paw and wonders if something so small can actually be dangerous to him. The little ball of fluff looks back at him with a blank expression as it rests peacefully on his apartment floor. Kang-woo stands over the creature and tries to decide what he should do with this potential threat inside his own house. He grits his teeth and prepares himself for the worst because he knows he cannot just leave things like this for long. He grabs the stained bag and dumps a disgusting pile of pink fleshy organs right onto the middle of the floor. The gross mass begins to twitch and slither across the wood toward his bare foot, as if it is searching for a host. Our boy jumps back in a total panic and tries to keep his distance from the pulsating pink slime on the floor. He watches intently from a distance as the strange organic matter begins to merge with the fluffy creature he caught earlier. He slowly reaches his finger out to touch the monster to see if it will react to his presence at all right now. He gives the soft creature a little poke, but it still feels surprisingly harmless and soft to his touch for now. The tiny creature lets out a soft sound and looks up at him while the pink mass continues to attach to it. Kang-woo continues to stare it down with a serious expression while he tries to understand the nature of this strange thing. Suddenly, he lets out a scream of agony as the monster snaps at his hand and leaves a deep, bloody wound behind. In a fit of pure survival instinct, he starts slamming his fist into the creature to stop it from attacking him again. He stands over the mangled remains of pink pulp and fur while trying to calm his racing heart after the sudden attack. He looks down at the mess he made and realizes the fluffy monster is actually much tougher than it looks at first glance. The stress of the situation finally hits him, and he collapses onto the floor while gasping for air in his living room. He tries to finish the job with a crossbow bolt, but the arrow just bounces off the creature's head like it was rubber. He stays focused and aims through his scope to see if he can find a single weak spot on the durable entity. He is completely baffled by how the creature is still alive after taking such a direct hit from his projectile weapon. Next, he pulls out a blowtorch and decides to see if the monster can withstand the intense heat of a direct blue flame. Blood and pink fluids splatter across his face as the situation in the apartment becomes increasingly more violent and strange by the second. He finishes the gruesome task and leaves his butchering tools scattered across the table covered in pink monster guts. He decides to turn up the heat and uses a blowtorch to sear the remains of the creature. Thick steam begins to rise from the table as the intense heat starts cooking the pile of monster flesh. Kang-woo pauses to sniff the air as a delicious aroma he never expected starts to fill the entire room. He stares down at the cooked remains in total disbelief while trying to figure out why this thing smells so good. The hunger finally wins out as he completely loses his marbles and starts drooling uncontrollably over the cooked monster meat. Kang-woo finally catches the scent of something hot and delicious after a long day of surviving. He stares at the steaming heap of food with such intensity that he might actually eat the plate too. He hasn't had a real meal in ages, and the sheer smell of this food is enough to drive him absolutely insane with hunger. He grabs the giant fried mass with both hands. It is still steaming hot, but he does not care about burns right now because he is so hungry. He opens his mouth wide. This is the peak of his day until something suddenly catches his attention and he freezes in place. Everything stops. His survival instincts are screaming, and that hunger just got replaced by pure caution in an instant. He abandons his precious meal and quietly creeps toward the window to see what the hell is going on outside in the street. Our protagonist holds a bag of food out the window. It seems like he is setting some kind of lure for something dangerous outside. He drops the bag and watches it fall to the street below. He hopes that his little distraction actually works this time around. Kang-woo grits his teeth and looks stressed as hell. The situation outside is clearly getting worse by the minute for him. He immediately starts boarding up the windows because he knows his sanctuary won't stay safe for much longer against the approaching threat. Blocking the light is a small price to pay for safety. He thinks this is the best he can manage alone while building his fortress. This room needs to be impenetrable before the night falls. He peeks through a gap at the city below. The once busy streets are now completely quiet and looking like a ghost town. He turns away with a worried expression. Living like this is exhausting, but he knows he has to keep his guard up to survive. The young man realizes that hiding in this room is only a temporary solution, and he needs a way to escape this nightmare. He looks straight ahead with resolve. Something is about to go down, and our boy is trying to stay ready for it because he knows his time is running out to escape this building. Here we go, everyone. Welcome to the world of cute war, where things are about to get way more violent than you would ever expect. A massive wheel crushes something pink and gooey on the asphalt. This is not your average day in the city anymore as the war begins. A heavily armored fire truck modified with giant spikes roars down the highway to deal with the infestation spreading through the city. Inside the cab, we find two soldiers. One is focused on the road, while the other seems surprised by a radio message and repeats the orders for the wave anything signal to avoid civilian casualties. They are part of the elite army cockroach unit. Our serious soldier girl listens intently to the radio while her partner manages the heavy steering wheel through the debris of the city. Her eyes are sharp and cold. She has seen enough of this mess to know that any distraction could lead to a total disaster. He knows he has to make a move now, or he will end up as another victim of this sudden and terrifying apocalypse. Little Kangwoo was just trying to enjoy his snack at the park. He looks so innocent with those big green glasses and his hoodie. Then comes this girl. She is absolutely fuming and looks like she is about to ruin everyone's peaceful afternoon at the playground with her temper. She swings a wooden sword around like a total maniac. Kangwoo and the other kids are running for their lives from her aggressive behavior. The mothers can only watch in absolute shock as the playground turns into a total battlefield because of one terrifying little girl. Back in the truck, the soldier is lost in thought while looking out the side window. Maybe she is remembering the world before everything turned into a total nightmare full of these monsters. Her partner asks a question, but she just gives a blunt no. She is clearly not in the mood for any small talk today. The atmosphere in the vehicle is heavy. They are driving through a world that no longer makes any sense to them as they search the streets. She looks out the window with a distant expression while leaning on her hand. You have to wonder what she is searching for in this ruined city, and if she remembers how it used to look before the fall. Her partner reaches for a snack bar inside the dark cabin. Even in the middle of a war, you still need to keep your energy up if you want to make it through the shift. She offers the snack to the serious one. It is a small gesture of kindness in a world that has become very cruel and unpredictable lately. Our soldier looks down at the chocolate bar with a thoughtful gaze. It is a small reminder of the simple things they are fighting to protect every single day in this ruined landscape. Her face softens just a tiny bit. For a second, you can see the human behind the armor and the weight of her mission. They continue their patrol through the deserted streets, while staying alert for any signs of movement hidden in the nearby shadows. She turns her gaze back to the front. The moment of peace is over, and she is back into her serious soldier mode for the patrol. The truck roars past as the scene shifts. We are going back to check on our boy Kangwoo and see how he is doing. He decides to risk everything by climbing down the exterior of the apartment complex, since the hallways are likely crawling with monsters. He is trembling as he looks through a window. This is terrifying for him, but he knows he cannot stay inside his room forever. Suddenly, he scares the life out of some guy inside the apartment. They both scream at each other through the glass in total shock and confusion. Our boy is thinking that people really need to use their common sense if they want to survive this whole mess. He yells at the guy through the window. Our boy is stressed and tells the stranger to shut up and watch his own back. The guy inside is panicking. He looks like he just saw a ghost instead of a teenager hanging off his balcony railing in the middle of the night. Kangwoo keeps moving down the side of the building. He is focused on the ground and trying to avoid making too much noise right now. He drops down toward the lower levels. One slip and it is game over for him, so he is being extremely careful with his footing. The guy in the window just watches him go. He is probably wondering how this kid has the guts to go out there in the dark. Kangwoo finally hits the ground and stands in the middle of the empty street to catch his breath. He grabs his bag and prepares himself because he knows the real mission is only just beginning. He looks around with intense focus. His glasses are reflecting the blue moonlight, and he is scanning for any signs of movement in the alley. He hears something nearby. His eyes go wide as he realizes he is definitely not alone in this dark alleyway anymore. He reaches into his backpack. It is time to pull out the secret weapon he has been working on for this moment. He grabs a long blue pole. You can tell this thing is custom-made and designed for one very specific purpose. He attaches a gas canister to the side. This is starting to look like a very dangerous homemade flamethrower or something similar. He puts the finishing touches on his crude engineering masterpiece, rigging a saw and a torch to a long pipe for maximum range. It looks like exactly what he needs to survive the night in this ruined city. He prepares to move out. You can see the determination in his stance as he readies himself for the upcoming fight. He takes a step forward while gripping his weapon tightly. He is thinking that he has to be the one to do this because nobody else is coming to help. This is his burden to carry now. He sparks the torch and flames erupt from the tip. Our boy just turned a regular hardware store run into a deadly weapon that can burn through anything that gets in his way tonight. The name of his special technique is the flame scimitar. He is thinking that as long as he has his fire, he can face whatever cute nightmare comes his way in this dark and ruined city. The fire burns bright against the darkness. It is the only light in this alley, and it is about to get chaotic. A strange creature that looks like a cat wearing a massive, fluffy sheep costume suddenly stands in his way. It looks harmless enough, but in this world, being cute is usually a sign of something deadly. Kang-woo stands tall with his flaming pole held high, while facing off against the fluffy beast. He stares down the creature that seems like a mix between a cat and a sheep as he prepares for a fight. Kang-woo had his game face on, his eyes locked on the target through those thick glasses of his. He adjusted his gear and looked around the dark alleyway with a look of pure concentration. The scanner view showed a strange grid overlaying the ground as he tracked the mysterious creature. There it was, a tiny blue fluff ball just standing there in the middle of the empty street. The creature let out a strange sound, making Kang-woo think that no matter how cute this thing looked, it was probably a trap. Our boy watched as the little monster started vibrating, almost like it was getting ready to pounce on him. He gripped his improvised weapon tightly, ready to strike before the creature could make its first move. A small and confident smirk played on his lips, because he knew exactly how to handle this threat. The little blue creature just stared back with those big empty eyes, looking completely and utterly harmless. Suddenly, our boy lets loose with a massive blast of fire and energy, turning the street into a chaotic mess of pink sparks. He slams his weapon down with enough force to incinerate everything in his path. Kang-woo was huffing and puffing after that, clearly exhausted from the intense effort of that single powerful strike. The scene shifted as a massive metal ladder slammed against a concrete wall with a loud and echoing bang. A specialized armored truck was parked at the base of a skyscraper, extending its ladder way up into the dark sky. Two women in heavy tactical gear realized they had hit their limit and could not go any higher up the building. The leader of the squad looked frustrated, her eyes darting around as she tried to assess their next move. She mentioned how the entire building might be packed with Yomi, making this entire rescue mission extremely dangerous for them. Glass shattered everywhere as the elite team made a violent and sudden entrance through one of the upper windows. The soldiers poured into the dark room, rifles raised and ready for anything that might be lurking in the shadows. One of the squad members checked in with the leader, confirming their tactical position inside the massive structure. Another one of those fluffy creatures was just sitting there on the floor, looking up at them with curiosity. Before anyone could react, the little beast launched itself right at a soldier's face like a heat-seeking missile. The soldier went down hard with a pained groan, while the rest of the team scrambled to help him. The leader can't believe her eyes as she witnesses the sheer speed and aggression of the small creature. A massive shockwave rippled through the room as the creature started going absolutely berserk on the specialized squad. Seeing the monster acting all cute and sparkly doesn't stop the soldiers from taking aim and preparing to fire. This soldier thought to herself that one wrong move could mean the end of her life, and her heart was absolutely racing. The little beast puts on its best puppy dog eyes and starts crying to trick the team into showing mercy. A massive explosion of pink goo and energy filled the room as the team finally opened fire on the beast. Smoke rose from the remains of the creature as the soldiers stood their ground with their weapons drawn tight. The leader narrowed her eyes, scanning the dusty area for any more of those deceptive and dangerous little freaks. They carefully advance into the pitch-black hallway, while keeping a close eye on their surroundings for any hidden threats. The group pushes deeper into the darkness as they search every corner of the hallway for their elusive target. She senses a presence lurking in the shadows and prepares herself for whatever is about to jump out at them. Intense gunfire erupts as the team unloads their weapons at a target hidden somewhere in the dark corridor. As the team rushed down the corridor, they thought they needed to reach the end before being pinned down by enemies. She lets out a steady stream of bullets while maintaining her focus on the objective ahead of her. The rest of the team joined in, creating a wall of lead as they pushed through the dark obstacles. She remains completely locked in as the chaos of the gunfight unfolds around her and the rest of the squad. They reached a heavy door and prepared to breach, two soldiers stacking up to kick the thing in. With a loud crash, they entered the room and found themselves face to face with a lone survivor. The leader paused for a moment, adjusting her helmet as she looked at the girl huddled on the floor. She demanded to know who this girl was and why she was hiding out in such a dangerous zone. They find a young girl with pink pigtails huddled alone on the stairs, looking absolutely terrified of the armed soldiers. The girl bursts into tears while confirming she was the one desperately waving her clothes earlier to get someone's attention. Our tactical leader looked a bit skeptical, wondering how a girl like this could have survived on her own. She started to ask a follow-up question, but her expression softened just a little bit for the survivor. She stares back with big, watery eyes to make herself look as innocent and helpless as possible to the soldiers. This made the squad leader blush a bit, probably feeling bad for being so aggressive when they first entered. Meanwhile, we head back to ground level, where a convenience store sign was looking pretty beat up and old. Kang-woo walked into the store, still carrying his makeshift flamethrower and looking for any remaining supplies. He peered over the edge of a dusty shelf, hoping to find something useful among the store ruins. Our boy spotted a few cans and a blue spray bottle tucked away in a dark corner of the shelf. He grabbed the items quickly, looking relieved to have finally found some actual food and useful chemicals. Kang-woo took a moment to breathe, his face covered in sweat after everything he had been through today. He started making his way out of the store, keeping his guard up even though the place seemed empty. Our boy thought to himself that this blue spray might be the key to his survival if things got messy. Suddenly, a loud noise startled him, and his eyes widened in complete shock behind his glasses. He spun around to see two shadows approaching him from the back of the trashed store. This orange-haired bastard walked out with a wicked grin, casually playing with a knife while his buddy held a torch. Kang-woo let out a gasp, realizing he just walked right into a confrontation with some very bad people. Our boy Kang-woo finds himself cornered in what looks like an abandoned dormitory by two sketchy dudes. One of these idiots is waving a literal torch around like he's some kind of dungeon explorer. Kang-woo is absolutely terrified, sweat pouring down his face as he wonders how he got into this mess. The dude with the torch just grins, clearly enjoying the fact that he's got our protagonist trapped like a rat. Suddenly, someone lunges with a massive butcher knife, and things just went from 0 to 100 real quick. The two attackers suddenly burst into a dead sprint and charge right toward our protagonist with terrifying speed. Kang-woo can barely keep track of the madness as people start shouting about fire and someone named Yomi, while things spiral out of control. Out of nowhere, this tiny, round fluffball of a cat gets smacked right in the face with the flaming torch. Does the cat die? Nope, it just stares back with those big eyes while its fur starts burning with mystical fire. The mysterious feline slowly approaches them with glowing eyes that scream danger as the thugs freeze up in the face of its supernatural power. These thugs realize they messed with the wrong pet and start booking it out of there like their lives depend on it. Kang-woo is left sitting on the floor with the fire cat, looking like his brain just completely short-circuited from the absurdity. Our protagonist quickly reaches into his bag, probably looking for a way to deal with this crazy situation before it gets worse. He realizes he needs a plan, thinking that playing dead might be his only shot at surviving this nightmare scenario. He puts on the most disgusting face imaginable and sticks his tongue out to convince everyone that he has already kicked the bucket. The stakes have officially hit the roof, as the story transitions into an all-out war where every single survivor has to fight just to see tomorrow. Kang-woo decides to stop playing dead and starts shimmying up a pole like he is some kind of urban ninja. He looks back with this sneaky little smirk, making me think our boy might have more tricks up his sleeve. Adjusting his glasses, our protagonist prepares for whatever insane challenge is coming his way next. For a second, he just stands there in silence, probably contemplating how his life turned into a high-stakes survival game. Our boy runs into another survivor who looks way too happy to be here, and honestly, that is a huge red flag. This new guy just starts shoveling canned food into his mouth, like he has not eaten in a literal decade. He is enjoying that mystery meat way too much, and his cheeks are puffed out like a squirrel hoarding nuts. Kang-woo watches him eat, his expression a mix of confusion and genuine concern for this dude's mental state. Suddenly, our protagonist starts bawling his eyes out while he chews, which is both hilarious and incredibly depressing to watch. The other guy stops eating for a second to ask why the heck Kang-woo is crying over a can of tuna. It turns out they are both emotional wrecks, because now the new guy is sobbing while he stuffs his face too. Talk about a bonding moment. These two are just sitting on the floor, sharing a single can of food and crying together. We get a flashback to when this messy-haired dude ran out to see who hit his car in the parking lot. He stares at the shattered taillight and the giant scratch on his bumper, but he does not even look that mad. Instead of getting angry, he just gives a thumbs up and laughs it off like it is some kind of joke. This guy is so chill that he just tells the driver to buy him a beer next time and calls it even. Back in the present, Kang-woo is digging through his bag and asks the guy how much stuff he actually has left. The guy gives an answer that makes Kang-woo yell out in shock, wondering if his new friend has totally lost his mind. He just waves it off with a carefree smile, clearly not bothered by the fact that they are in a survival situation. Comparing their current struggle to watching villains on a dating show is honestly a top-tier analogy for this mess. He gets a far-away look in his eyes as he reminisces about his favorite reality programs instead of worrying about his life. Kang-woo cannot believe it, asking if this dude really values his dopamine fix more than finding actual food to survive. The guy just hums a little tune, completely content with his life choices, while our protagonist sits there in utter disbelief. Kang-woo looks away and thinks that with a personality that annoying, this guy is probably already dead in the future. Someone is going to town on a fish with a heavy cleaver. This world does not play around when it comes to meal prep. The man behind the knife stands tall in the kitchen. He carries an aura that says he is the one calling all the shots here. One of his subordinates, wearing a ridiculous cat hat, approaches him. Even in the apocalypse, you have got to keep the fashion sense interesting. They hop into a vehicle to head out for their next move. The guy in the hat looks like he is questioning his entire life. Get a load of this, they are actually traveling in a giant swan boat. Talk about moving across the water with some serious style points. The group navigates through a dilapidated pier that remains heavily scarred by the disaster that once tore the entire city apart. The operation continues smoothly as the crew hauls in overflowing nets to begin processing the food for their distribution route. The subordinates work quickly to boil the day's catch and prepare enough rations to feed their massive group of hungry followers. A convoy of heavy trucks starts rolling down the highway. They are carrying the most precious cargo in this wasteland, which is food and water. The man known as Chef stares out the window with a hardened expression. He is the leader of the water merchants, and he looks completely untouchable. His driver keeps yapping while they navigate through the ruins. Chef looks like he is about 2 seconds away from throwing him out of the moving truck. The boss is definitely not in the mood for small talk today. He has got that look on his face that spells trouble for anyone who crosses him. They drive deeper into the ruins, while maintaining the steady pace required to keep their regional monopoly running without any interruptions. Chef is the intimidating leader of the water merchants, who runs the entire region without anyone ever learning his true identity. The subordinate tries to lighten the mood with some casual conversation. Chef just stares back with eyes that could probably pierce through solid steel. It is pretty clear that these two have a very different idea of what constitutes a fun road trip. One is terrified while the other is bored. The heavy tires screech to a halt as they reach the designated meeting spot. It is time for business, and the atmosphere gets heavy fast. Chef steps out and announces that the meal has finally arrived. A crowd of desperate people has already gathered to wait for their ration. An old man presents a handful of gold rings and jewelry wrapped in cloth. In this new world, shiny trinkets are the only currency left. He pleads with Chef to accept the payment for some basic sustenance. It is a heartbreaking sight, but that is just the reality of their daily lives. Chef gives the order to provide some fish and water to the group. He acts like he is doing them a favor while taking their family heirlooms. A worker in a deer hat hands over a small container of food. The old man clutches it like it is the most valuable thing he has ever owned. Heavily armed guards stand watch to make sure the desperate crowd does not try anything stupid during the daily food handout. The old man starts screaming about how unfair the trade is, but Chef just stares him down with a cold and menacing expression. A man wearing a bright pink bunny onesie suddenly steps forward and turns this weird situation into something much more dangerous. Without a single word of warning, the bunny guy lunges forward and stabs the old man. Blood sprays everywhere as the crowd watches in total horror. Everyone freezes in place as the brutal reality of the situation sinks in. This family is witnessing a cold-blooded murder right in front of them. The killer looks up at Chef with a confused expression on his face. He actually thought he was helping the old man find a way out of his misery. He bends at the waist deeply to apologize for the misunderstanding. Chef just shrugs it off, saying that mistakes are only a problem if they keep happening. The trucks roar back to life and begin to pull away from the scene. They leave behind nothing but screams and the smell of exhaust in the air. Meanwhile, we find Kang-woo sitting alone in a quiet room. Our protagonist looks like he is carrying the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. A loud growling sound echoes through the silence as his stomach betrays him. It turns out that even heroes have to deal with the agony of hunger. Our boy is literally drooling as he thinks about the meal he missed out on. He looks like he is entering a trance, just imagining the taste of food. He mutters to himself about how he cannot stand the constant cravings anymore. His obsession is reaching a breaking point, and he is starting to lose it. Kang-woo stares into space and claims that this intense feeling must be love. Man, the guy is so hungry he is starting to confuse starvation with romance. He stares off with an intense focus, while he begins to formulate a wild new plan in the back of his mind. He operates out of a humble shop that specializes in used air conditioners and old appliances while planning his next big move. Inside the workshop, Kang-woo is busy tinkering with a highly advanced robotic arm. Even while starving, he is still a master of his mechanical craft. A girl in a school uniform bursts into the room and starts yelling at him. She is definitely not happy about whatever he has been up to lately. The girl has reached her absolute breaking point and starts screaming at him to finally explain what is really going on. Kang-woo stays focused on his task and completely ignores her presence, which only makes her even more annoyed. She watches him closely for any sign of a reaction, but he remains entirely unbothered by her judgment. Heavy tension hangs over the facility gates as the group prepares for something massive to go down. She is completely paralyzed with shock after receiving news that just rocked her entire world. She points a finger to her face while trying to make sense of the chaos happening around her right now. Bro, she is totally confused. The weight of the situation finally hits her as she worries about the innocent people trapped inside that massive building. This is getting dark fast. The military officers prepare to start a serious interrogation as the tension in the room reaches a breaking point. The commander stares the girl down with a cold gaze to show she isn't in the mood for games. The brutal reality of war looms over these survivors as they realize things are about to get bloody. One of the soldiers whispers something secretive while the other looks on with a confused expression. They are definitely hiding something from us. They start listing off these weird names like Sharp Love and Heart Balloon, which sounds way too cute for a literal apocalypse scenario. The soldier on the left is completely baffled by these names, and honestly, I cannot even blame her for being so out of the loop. A faint blush creeps onto the commander's face as she realizes how ridiculous this entire conversation has actually become. Even she has a soft side. Our girl wraps herself in a blanket while the soldiers freak out over something she just said. Talk about a total mood shift here. She looks down with a somber expression as the reality of her situation begins to sink in deeper than ever before. Life is rough. Wait a minute as she raises a finger, because she just remembered a crucial detail that might actually save all of their lives tonight. The soldiers are literally vibrating with intensity as they try to process the insane information our girl just dropped on them. Their brains are melting. Kang-woo is slumped on the floor looking like he just crawled out of a literal meat grinder. The empty cans and scraps littering the floor prove that finding enough food to survive has become a desperate struggle. Kang-woo lets out a long and exhausted sigh as he stares into the distance with those round-rimmed glasses of his. He is drained. He looks up at the ceiling wondering if they are ever going to make it out of this mess alive. The silence is deafening. A small group of survivors huddles together on a rooftop, surrounded by growing piles of trash in this wasteland. Our boy Kangwoo talks to his friend about the grim reality of their situation, while they try to figure out their next move for survival. One poor guy is clutching his stomach in pain while a girl tries her best to comfort him. Man, this group is struggling hard. This angry couple starts causing a scene while their young kid stands there looking completely terrified. Talk about a toxic family dynamic in the apocalypse. The old man looks back at them with a face full of resentment and regret, because he knows exactly where this argument is heading. The father starts pointing fingers and yelling at the top of his lungs, because he thinks he should get special treatment for his kid. He actually raises his fist to the old man, and the tension on this roof just shot through the ceiling. This bastard is unhinged. The mother joins in the shouting match, and honestly, these people are making a bad situation 10 times worse for everyone involved. Just stop. Everyone else stands back with shocked expressions while they watch this family completely lose their minds over their dwindling resources. This is pure chaos. The guy in the blue shirt reaches his breaking point with the drama and is just about ready to snap. They stand in a circle on the rooftop arguing about who has to go out and risk their lives to find more food for the group. The man in the blue shirt points and shouts that sending an 11-year-old boy out into the apocalypse is insane. Another guy tries to lighten the mood with a nervous smile and suggests they settle this life or death decision with a simple game. Everyone puts their hands in the middle for a high-stakes round of rock, paper, scissors to decide who goes on the suicide mission. The moment of truth arrives, and the intensity is so thick you could cut it with a knife as they prepare to show hands. The family lets out a massive sigh of relief, because they won the game and won't be the ones heading out into the danger zone. But get this, because the other woman immediately calls foul and accuses the mother of throwing her hand late. This is a total mess. The father starts screaming again and pumps his fist in the air like he just won the lottery or something. What a complete clown. He points a finger right in her face and keeps yelling while the poor kid just watches his parents act like total lunatics in public. The sound of heavy metal doors sliding open echoes through the stairwell as the chosen ones prepare to face the horrors waiting for them outside. Kangwoo and his 2 companions finally step out into the sunlight armed with a shovel, a baseball bat, and a makeshift flamethrower to face the horrors outside. Our boy Kangwoo stares ahead with a cold sweat dripping down his face, while he tries to keep his composure for the sake of the crew. He wonders what they can even do at this point, but his eyes show a glimmer of determination that proves he is not giving up yet. Kangwoo asks why his friends are clinging to him, but they insist he should lead since he is the smartest member of the crew. He continues to sweat bullets while his friend leans in and tries to give him a desperate pep talk before they head into danger. They basically push him to the front of the line, telling him to guide the way into the unknown, while he looks completely terrified. Suddenly, a strange, rustling sound comes from the bushes near some trash cans, and the whole group freezes in their tracks. The tension is thick enough to cut with a knife, as they wait to see what kind of monster is about to jump out. Out of nowhere, this tiny yellow puffball of a creature launches itself straight at the guys with surprising speed and agility. Kangwoo watches through his glasses in slow motion as his life flashes before his eyes, while this fluff monster closes the distance. His friend swings a makeshift bat with everything he has, but this little furball is way too fast for him to hit. The creature dodges the attack in mid-air, looking way too cute for something that is probably about to kill them all. This dude is swinging wildly and screaming in frustration, while the puffball flies right past his weapon like it is a game. It latches onto his face, and he starts panicking and screaming while trying to rip the little monster off with his bare hands. The other guy decides the best way to help is to just start bashing his friend on the head with a shovel. He looks completely unhinged as he realizes his desperate attacks are doing absolutely nothing to stop the creature from clinging on tight. Suddenly, a massive explosion of pink and yellow energy erupts between them, and everything goes sideways for the crew in an instant. The red-shirted guy screams in absolute terror as the situation turns into a chaotic nightmare right before his very eyes. A girl sitting alone in a room looking like she has not slept a single wink in 3 days. She is completely drained of energy and lets out a long groan as she hears someone entering her private living space. The soldier girl is caught completely off guard when this guy suddenly bursts into her private room with some urgent news. He points outside, telling her something big is happening in the courtyard, and she really needs to get out there and see. She finally steps out and finds a massive crowd of soldiers gathered together for some kind of surprise event at the base. The girl looks confused and exhausted as she tries to figure out why every soldier in the area is acting so hyped. The pink-haired idol takes the stage to perform for the troops who are chanting her name, like a group of obsessed superfans. Our girl watches from the side, hearing the idol sing about being a cutie, which feels totally weird to a battle-hardened soldier. She pulls out a collector card of the idol and looks at it with a strange expression while the music continues to blast. The soldiers are cheering their hearts out and waving their hands in the air like they are at a world tour concert event. The idol named Hayoi closes her eyes and gets deep into the melody, while the entire crowd goes silent to hear her sing. Our soldier girl watches with a skeptical look, wondering if this performance is really the best use of their limited military resources. Hayoi is putting on a masterclass of fan service, and the energy in the courtyard is reaching a dangerous breaking point for everyone. The idol reaches out to the massive crowd with a dazzling smile, while the soldiers scream their lungs out in pure and unadulterated excitement. She points up to the sky and tells everyone that if they are cute, they will always win no matter what happens. Then she starts a new dance move, while the lights sparkle around her, making her look like a literal angel from the heavens. Our girl takes a moment to process everything while looking out at the horizon with a very serious expression. You can tell she is mentally preparing for the intense battle that is definitely heading their way soon. Hayoi continues her performance, talking about the motivation needed for raising children in this harsh and broken world that they all inhabit. She takes a deep breath and lets out a beautiful high note that echoes across the entire military complex for everyone to hear. But then the lyrics take a dark turn as she tells the crowd that humans simply are not cute at all anymore. She gives a playful wink and makes a heart gesture, but there is something truly sinister and cold hidden deep in her eyes. The soldier girl listens to the performance with a skeptical expression, because the bizarre lyrics definitely do not match the upbeat energy of the concert. Massive spikes suddenly erupt from the ground and impale the soldiers, turning the happy event into a blood-soaked nightmare in the blink of an eye. One poor soul gets caught right in the middle of the blast and is sent flying through the air in multiple pieces. The soldier girl freezes in absolute terror as she realizes that the entire concert was just a giant trap for a massacre. Hayoi turns her back to the carnage and walks away like she did not just murder 1,000 people for her own fun. Hayoi finally reveals her true nature as a cold-blooded killer who actually enjoys the chaos she just unleashed. Our boy Kangwoo is sneaking through the ruins with his crew while trying to stay as quiet as possible. His friend leans in and asks if he actually spotted something or if he is just being paranoid again. The guy in the red tracksuit spots their target and points it out with a huge grin on his face. Their buddy with the baseball bat looks ready for action as he prepares to handle any trouble they encounter. He goes full beast mode and starts swinging that bat like his life depends on it to clear the way. Kangwoo and his other friend watch nervously, while hoping their muscle can handle the situation without drawing too much attention. Everything seems clear, so our protagonist makes a break for the building, while carrying his makeshift gear and supplies. This world has turned into a total war zone, where even the smallest trip for supplies feels like a suicide mission. The entrance to the store is completely trashed, with rubble piled up everywhere from the chaos of the collapse. The trio finally makes it inside, and they are shocked to see how much of the place is still intact. Kangwoo keeps his eyes peeled, because he knows that in a place like this, being distracted means you are dead. He strikes gold when he finds some canned meat, and starts shoving the tins into his basket as fast as he can. The guy with the bat finds a bottle of booze, and looks like he just won the lottery in the apocalypse. Our protagonist finally locates what he was looking for, and finds a tube of toothpaste to keep his hygiene up. They give each other a quick salute to celebrate the successful scavenge, while feeling pretty good about their haul today. Kangwoo suddenly freezes when he hears a strange noise coming from the back of the store, and looks around nervously. He notices some gas canisters left on the shelf, and thinks they might come in handy for his makeshift weapon. The silence in the aisle is starting to get really creepy, and our boy realizes they are definitely not alone anymore. Kang Woo freezes in horror as a massive monster made of fluffy sheep plushies looms over him like a living nightmare. He is so terrified that he can barely get a single word out while his eyes go wide with pure shock. His friend is still cheering about the canned food and has no idea that a giant monster is standing right there. The realization finally hits the rest of the group, and their faces turn pale as they see the plushy nightmare. Kang Woo slowly raises his long pole weapon while praying that this thing is not as dangerous as it looks. The beast turns around to reveal its body is composed of dozens of small crying sheep faces, and it starts moving. Sweat pours down his face as our boy realizes that fighting a giant toy monster is way harder than he imagined. His hand shakes as he reaches for the valve on his gas tank to ignite his makeshift flamethrower for defense. The beast is faster than it looks and sends our hero flying across the store with a single powerful strike. He lets out a pained cry as his body slams into the ground and shards of glass shatter around him. His friends start screaming and realize that this situation has gone south way faster than any of them expected today. The monster slowly stalks toward its prey, while the poor guy tries to scramble away from the encroaching shadow. Kang Woo looks up with terror in his eyes and realizes he might not make it out of this convenience store alive. Somewhere else on the battlefield, a massive wave of blood erupts as giant spikes impale several soldiers at the same time. A muscular woman watches the slaughter with a look of absolute horror while trying to process the level of power displayed. A mysterious girl with long pink hair walks away from the pile of bodies like she just finished a casual stroll. She turns around and her eyes are glowing with a terrifying pink light that signals she is the one responsible. The woman is left breathless, and she can't believe that such a cute girl could be capable of such extreme violence. She starts sprinting toward the girl because she knows that letting someone this powerful roam free is a recipe for disaster. The pink-haired girl ignores the chaos and raises a microphone into the air as if she is preparing for a show. The pink-haired girl raises her microphone toward the sky, while the ground starts to buckle and crack beneath her. Hundreds of tiny plush monsters sprout from the earth, and our military lady can't believe her friend Hyowai is the one behind this madness. Standing amidst the chaos, the pink-haired girl holds her microphone close and prepares to give the performance of a lifetime. Sharp needles fly through the air and pierce the military woman's skin. She lets out a pained cry as the ambush catches her off guard. A fluffy demon dives toward her just as a massive pillar of fire erupts from the ground and consumes everything in the immediate area. Gasping for breath, the woman manages to stay on her feet despite the blood dripping from her fresh wounds. She needs to get out of there quickly. Her eyes lock onto the military vehicle parked nearby, and she sprints toward it with everything she has left. The keys have to be inside that truck. Her hand fumbles with the ignition, desperately trying to get the engine to roar to life before the creatures swarm her position and finish her off. She floors the accelerator and plows right through the swarm of monsters, while the pink-haired girl watches her escape from the sidelines. Safety is still a long way off as she grips the steering wheel, her clothes soaked in blood and her heart hammering against her ribs. Meanwhile, our boy Kang Woo is dealing with his own set of problems inside a dark grocery store. Wearing a bike helmet and glasses, he prepares to face whatever is lurking in the shadows. A massive tower of yellow fluff looms over him, forming a giant monster that looks like it came straight out of a horror movie. Sweat beads down Kang Woo's face as he grits his teeth, realizing that his usual tactics might not work against this hulking mass of creatures. Another survivor in a red tracksuit desperately tries to defend himself with a shopping cart as the massive beast towers over him. The poor guy screams in absolute terror as the monster prepares to crush him into the floorboards without any mercy at all. Kang Woo scans the area and spots a butane gas canister attached to a long pole sitting among the wreckage on the floor. He reaches out and grabs the makeshift weapon, knowing that fire is the only thing that might stop these strange things from attacking him. Kang Woo swings his makeshift flamethrower with everything he has and engulfs the massive creature in a wave of scorching fire. Shock and adrenaline keep Kang Woo moving even as his lungs burn from the smoke and heat of his own explosive attack. The monster strikes back with a heavy blow that sends Kang Woo tumbling across the floor, while his only weapon slips from his grasp. The guy in the red tracksuit tries to defend himself with a shovel, but his hands are shaking too much to be effective. A massive yellow fist smashes into the floor and nearly crushes the survivor into the ground as debris flies in every direction. Kang-woo stays low to the ground, his mind racing as he looks for another opening to strike the monster with his fire weapon. He gathers his remaining strength and unleashes another torrent of fire to keep the monster at bay while the building begins to fall apart. Fear is written all over his face as he realizes the giant is still standing despite the intense heat of the flames. A massive impact shakes the entire building as parts of the ceiling start falling onto the writhing mass of yellow creatures below. Before he can move, a heavy limb slams into Kang-woo and pins him against the hard concrete floor with overwhelming force and speed. The monstrosity towers over our boy, its dozens of tiny faces staring down with a blank and creepy expression that chills him to the bone. Suddenly, a strange pink squirrel-like creature emerges from the mass of yellow bodies, looking just as twisted as the rest of them. Elsewhere, a man in a blue shirt is running through the ruined streets, gasping for every breath of air he can get. He finds himself cornered by two of those small yellow devils and raises his baseball bat in a desperate attempt to defend himself. He swings with all his might, hoping to clear a path through the debris and the monsters stalking him through the dark rubble. Sprinting toward a heavy metal door, he begs the people inside to open up and let him in before it's too late for him. The survivors inside the shelter look at each other with uncertainty, wondering if they should risk opening the door for a random stranger. One woman decides she cannot let him die out there and reaches for the heavy latch to let the man inside the safe room. She pulls the door open just enough for him to see her, and for a split second, relief washes over the man's face. That relief is instantly shattered when a sharp spike erupts from his forehead, killing him before he can even take a single step inside the shelter. The survivors watch in absolute horror as the man collapses and reveals a yellow monster was hitching a ride on his back the entire time. A military jeep rumbles through a dense forest road, kicking up dust as it speeds away from a nightmare. Inside the vehicle, our girl was breathing hard, her arms and waist covered in blood from some serious wounds. Her eyes were narrow and focused, but you could tell she was reaching her absolute limit. Suddenly, her mind drifted back to a rescue mission in a city that had been completely leveled. A soldier stood on top of a crumbling skyscraper, looking like a total badass against the setting sun. A young student was crying her heart out, refusing to leave her grandparents behind in the ruins. The soldier looked at the girl with a gaze that said they simply did not have time for a debate. The soldier decides to end the argument immediately by landing a heavy strike right across the young girl's face. The strike was precise and effective, leaving our girl unconscious on the cold rooftop while her grandparents watched in absolute horror. It was a cold move, but in this world, survival was the only thing that actually mattered. The soldier threw the unconscious girl over their shoulder and started the long climb up the rescue ladder. The helicopter pulls away from the ruins as the soldier makes a daring escape with the unconscious girl dangling from the ladder. Back in the present, our girl gritted her teeth, clearly haunted by the choices she had to make. She remembered the girl waking up later, tearfully asking if her grandparents were still alive in that hellhole. The memory was a heavy burden, and you could see the pain etched into her face as she drove. The Jeep bounced over the uneven road, the engine groaning as it pushed through the thick fog. She slams her fist against the wheel in frustration, desperately trying to ignore the searing pain from the wounds on her arms. Eventually, she pulled over and stepped out, needing a moment to just breathe and process the chaos. The woods were eerily quiet until a strange rustling sound came from the nearby bushes. Small glimmers of light started to twinkle among the leaves, like something out of a twisted fairy tale. Out of nowhere, a bunch of tiny, fluffy sheep creatures hopped onto the pavement, looking way too cute for this world. Our girl was not buying the act and immediately reached for the combat knife strapped to her leg. She stood her ground, eyes darting between the fluff balls as she prepared for the worst. The creatures suddenly lunged forward with surprising speed, their innocent faces hiding a dark secret. Her eyes widened in shock as she realized these things were definitely not just regular animals. They began to glow with a weird pink energy, expanding and morphing into something far more dangerous. Sweat rolled down her face as she realized She might have just walked into a fatal trap. A mysterious biker wearing a cat-eared helmet suddenly bursts onto the scene and plows straight through the pack of glowing monsters. Her heart skips a beat when she hears the sudden roar of an engine cutting through the silence of the woods. She turns around in total shock, unable to believe someone else actually survived this long out in the open. The strange rider stops the bike and stares her down, leaving her to wonder if this new arrival is a friend or a foe. The fluffy monsters were already regrouping, their little paws scratching at the asphalt as they prepared another charge. Without wasting another second, our girl hopped onto the back of the bike, clinging on for dear life. They sped off down the highway, leaving the creepy sheep creatures in a cloud of exhaust and dust. As they rode away, she looked back at the mystery rider, wondering if her luck had finally changed. The title card drops with a bloody thud, signaling that the real war has only just begun. Now we switch over to our boy Kangwoo, who is currently being strangled by a literal tower of monsters. A weird pink squirrel creature watched the scene with a look of pure and unadulterated confusion. Another kid in a red jacket comes rushing in, shouting for his friend to hold on just a bit longer. Kangwoo was turning blue, his glasses slipping as he struggled to get even a single breath of air. The situation was dire, as the massive creature loomed over them in the middle of a ransacked store. The kid in red does not hesitate for a second, and douses the monster in a massive wave of fuel as it prepares to strike. The monster looked down at the liquid dripping from its body, clearly not understanding what was about to happen. Kangwoo gritted his teeth, knowing that the next few seconds were going to be absolutely insane. A spark was lit, and the entire creature erupted into a massive, roaring pillar of golden flames. The force of the explosion sent both boys stumbling back as the monster shrieked in agony. Fire engulfed the aisles of the store, turning the peaceful shop into a literal furnace in seconds. Both boys turned tail and ran, making sure they had grabbed all the supplies they could carry. The monster was still standing, a flaming titan of death that was already starting to chase them down again. Kangwoo pushed his glasses up, his face full of determination as they fled into the dark. Kangwoo knows they need a big distraction if they want to make it out of this mess alive. He grabs a heavy gas canister, his grip tightening as the adrenaline pumps through his veins. With a quick move, he prepares the tank to blow, making sure the seal is broken just enough to be dangerous. One wrong move and this whole thing goes south for our boy. Our protagonist tosses the pressurized tank right into the path of the approaching monster. It is a desperate gamble, but they are running out of options in this dark hallway. Both boys turn tail and run as fast as their legs can carry them. They don't dare look back, knowing that the countdown to a massive explosion has already begun. The weird little creature is curious about the new toy and gets way too close for its own good. It has no idea that this orange can is about to ruin its entire day. The boys barely manage to shout a warning to each other before diving away from the massive wall of intense heat. Kangwoo grits his teeth and tries to keep his cool despite the ringing in his ears. He looks determined to survive this nightmare, no matter what kind of horrors the world throws at him next. In another part of the city, a girl is sobbing hysterically over a man lying in a growing pool of blood. She begs him to wake up, but things are looking grim for her companion. Suddenly, a heartless guy comes out and just kicks the air, yelling at the girl to get away from his door. This dude has zero sympathy for someone clearly going through the worst day of her life. He screams at her, asking why she would ever think it is okay to bring a literal corpse to their safe haven. The girl is terrified, caught between her grief and this guy's pure rage. She tries to explain that they need help, but he starts closing the heavy metal gate on her. It is every person for themselves now, and mercy is a luxury no one seems to afford. An old man joins in the yelling, pointing a finger and telling the girl she is going to attract monsters. They are basically leaving her for dead out in the open without a second thought. Kangwoo and his friend continue their escape, carrying their heavy gear through the ruins of the city. They look exhausted, but they know stopping for even a minute could be a death sentence. The terrified survivor watches as those little yellow fluffballs start jumping toward his position through the narrow gap in the door. Kangwoo looks totally drained as he leans on his friend, while they search for a path through the city ruins. They walk past the stairs where the girl was crying, seeing the body left alone in the cold. It is a grim reminder of what happens to those who can't keep up in this new world. The man finally slams the gate shut, sealing himself inside and leaving the rest of the world to rot. Talk about a guy with a serious lack of humanity. As Kang-woo keeps walking, he has no idea that a tiny hitchhiker has attached itself to his backpack. Something small and pink is clinging on for dear life while they move. This strange pink squirrel creature with a checkered scarf is just riding along on the backpack like it owns the place. Elsewhere, a mysterious woman sits huddled on the floor, wrapped in a thick blanket. She looks completely drained, like she has been fighting a losing battle for a long time. She hears a noise and looks up, her eyes wide with caution and a hint of fear. In this world, a stranger is usually bad news, and she is ready for a fight. A woman dressed in full camo gear stands in the doorway, looking surprisingly calm. She thanks the other woman for saving her, which is a rare moment of gratitude in this mess. Our purple-haired girl isn't entirely convinced that this newcomer is a friend. She keeps her distance, trying to read the situation before making any sudden moves. The woman in the camo outfit looks like she knows exactly how to handle herself in a crisis. She seems to be assessing the room, looking for any potential threats or useful supplies. Rusted shipping containers and abandoned cars now fill the ruins of what used to be a bustling and lively city. Purple Hair looks skeptical as the other woman keeps talking about their survival. She has probably been burned before and isn't about to let her guard down for anyone. She admits that she appreciates the help, but her face tells a different story. Trust is the most expensive thing you can give away right now, and she is being stingy with it. The survivor starts rummaging through her gear, while the newcomer in the camo outfit stands back and watches her. Our girl is taken aback by the sudden movement, her instincts telling her to be ready for anything. The tension between these two is rising by the second. She looks down, lost in her own thoughts as she tries to figure out her next move. Staying with a stranger might be dangerous, but being alone is even worse. They stand there in silence for a moment, just staring each other down. It is a classic standoff, and neither one of them is willing to blink first. She stares down the survivors with a look of pure intensity that makes it clear she is not someone to be messed with right now. Purple Hair swallows her fear and tries to stay composed under the pressure. She knows that showing weakness right now could be a fatal mistake. Back at the main survivor camp, the food situation is getting pretty desperate. A few cans of tuna and some crackers are all that is left to feed a whole group of people. A woman in a purple jacket starts accusing the boys of holding back some of the food. She is being loud and aggressive, looking for someone to blame for their hunger. Kang-woo is not having any of her nonsense and yells back that they are doing their best. It is a toxic environment where everyone is constantly at each other's throats. The orange-haired girl is absolutely devastated as she stands there crying over the loss of her friend, while everyone else remains indifferent. The older woman gets even meaner, telling the girl that her actions basically destroyed a family. That is a low blow even for an apocalypse, and the girl is left speechless. She continues her heartless rant by claiming that everyone has lost someone, and the dead man was not even her actual relative anyway. Kang-woo looks on with a blank expression, his mind probably racing with a million different thoughts. He is seeing the worst side of people, and it is clearly taking a toll on him. He eventually heads back to his own quarters, carrying a small tray of food for himself. He needs to eat if he wants to keep his strength up for whatever comes tomorrow. The meal is pathetic, just a few scraps of meat and some hard biscuits. This is the reality of the world now, where even a simple meal is a hard-won victory. Our boy looks totally worn out, the weight of the world resting heavy on his shoulders. He just wants a moment of peace, but that is the one thing he can't have. He thinks back to the body on the stairs, the image of the blood on the ground burned into his memory. He wonders if there was anything else they could have done to help. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him from the shadows of his room. He freezes in place, his heart skipping a beat as he realizes he is not alone. He frantically scans the dark corners of his room, because he is terrified that a monster might have followed him back home. He spots the little pink squirrel sitting on top of a cabinet, and get this, it is actually talking. It tells him to look over here, and our boy is about to have a total meltdown. Kang-woo completely loses his mind and sends his dinner flying into the air as he lets out a blood-curdling scream of pure terror. The bizarre little creature remains completely calm, while watching our protagonist have a total mental breakdown right in front of it. The boy enters his room and discovers a pink intruder that is making itself right at home on top of his dresser. Our boy immediately goes into combat mode because honestly, who would not be terrified of that creepy face staring back at them? The pink beast stares back with an intensity that proves it is far more dangerous than its cute outfit would suggest. Instead of screaming like a normal person, Kang-woo reaches into his pack for some serious heat to deal with the intruder. He pulls out a custom flamethrower and unleashes a literal wall of fire to toast this weird mutant rodent. Talk about overkill, but our boy is not taking any chances. The entire room is engulfed in flames as he swings the nozzle around. He is determined to make sure there is nothing left of that pink nightmare. As the smoke clears, he waits to see if he actually managed to get rid of the problem, or if he just ruined the kitchen. But get this, the little monster is already on his shoulder taunting him and telling him to try and catch it. Its speed is absolutely insane. The level of disrespect is off the charts as the squirrel just giggles, while Kang-woo boils over with pure rage and frustration. He spins around and actually manages to snag the little pest out of the air before it can escape again. The creature briefly panics as it struggles against the boy's powerful grip and realizes it has finally been captured. The tables turn in an instant as the creature overpowers his grip and proves that it will not be defeated so easily. He realizes far too late that he made a massive mistake by letting this dangerous monster get within striking distance. The squirrel hits him with a physical force that sends him flying across the room like a total ragdoll. This thing packs a serious punch for its size. His brain basically short-circuits from the impact as he realizes he is completely outmatched by a squirrel wearing a bib. He slams into the wall, and his signature glasses go flying as he completely loses consciousness. It is a total knockout in round one. Our poor protagonist is left face down on the tiles, while the victor stands over him, and his gear is scattered everywhere. The victorious rodent strikes several intimidating poses to mock the protagonist and assert its dominance after such an easy win. Welcome to the cute war where being adorable is just a cover for being a total menace to society. Everything is blurry when Kang-woo finally starts to open his eyes again. He can barely make out the shapes in front of him. He sees that creepy face staring back at him and knows that things are about to get even weirder than before. Our boy realizes he is tied up tight in a chair, and the squirrel is just sitting there casually waiting for him to wake up. It is a total interrogation setup, and the squirrel is the one holding all the cards right now. This is definitely not what he expected today. The creature forces him to witness a disturbing vision of its entire family to prove that he is facing a whole species of nightmares. Kang-woo is sweating buckets because he cannot figure out what this thing actually wants from him or why it is showing him family photos. They stare each other down in a tense silence as the power dynamic shifts completely. Our boy is at its mercy. Suddenly, the squirrel points a finger at him like it is choosing its next recruit for a secret mission. It looks way too serious. The protagonist reaches his breaking point as he struggles to process the absolute absurdity of being drafted into a rodent army. Meanwhile, somewhere in an industrial wasteland, things are getting intense for a different group of people. The sun sets over a field of shipping containers. An explosion of speed sends a training ball flying through the air like a literal cannonball. This is no ordinary gym class. A woman in tactical gear barely manages to block the incoming projectile as it slams into her with incredible force. The impact is brutal, and she lets out a scream as she is knocked backward by the sheer momentum. Training is a nightmare here. The blue-haired woman steps forward while clutching another ball like a lethal weapon to show everyone who is really in charge. The instructor demands absolute perfection from her subordinates and refuses to show even a hint of mercy during their training. The exhausted girl struggles to find her footing while preparing her body for the next round of this brutal training session. The blue-haired instructor is not impressed at all, and she keeps the pressure on with zero hesitation. She is a total ice queen. They take a brief moment to talk, and it is clear that the training is way harder than anyone expected. The expectations are through the roof. The trainee pushes through the agonizing pain and refuses to give up on her mission regardless of how exhausted she feels. Her superior reminds her that in this world you either get stronger or you get left behind in the dust. The grind never stops. The girl is suddenly interrupted by a shocking realization that completely shifts her focus away from the grueling training session. Her superior did not look convinced at all and turned away with a cold and distant expression. The superior officer steps in to restrain the angry trainee before the situation in the room can spiral out of control. Looking down in silence, she realized that simple hard work might not be enough to survive this anymore. The blue-haired girl stared back with eyes that had seen far too much combat in the field. Without another word, our girl lunged forward to continue her grueling and intense training session for the day. She refuses to stop until she achieves absolute perfection and proves she has what it takes to survive the final cut. A red-haired soldier watched from the shadows, wondering if she would actually make the final cut here. His buddy with the weird goggles joined him, and they started placing bets on her overall performance today. She swung her blade with everything she had left, creating a blinding flash of pure magical energy. Goggle Boy just smirked like he knew a secret that nobody else was even close to discovering yet. The superior stepped back and watched as the training ground finally went quiet for a brief moment. Something unexpected caught her eye, and her stoic mask finally started to slip a little bit in surprise. Our girl stood her ground, refusing to back down, even as her breathing became incredibly ragged and heavy. A heavy door slid open with a mechanical hiss, revealing the next crazy stage of the ongoing test. These tiny, fluffy creatures appeared out of nowhere, and honestly, they looked way too cute for a battle. The superior watched closely to see how our girl would react to such a bizarre and strange situation. She gripped her sword tight, because she knew better than to trust cute appearances in this dangerous world. Meanwhile, our boy Kang Woo found himself in a really tight spot, tied up like a holiday ham. He glares at the creature while gritting his teeth in a desperate attempt to break free from his bindings. This little guy looked like he had been through the ringer and was definitely not in the mood. Suddenly, the squirrel pointed a tiny finger right at him like he was some kind of wanted criminal. Then things got weird as the creature's mouth split open to reveal a bunch of gross, wriggling tentacles. Our boy's brain just short-circuited as the cute squirrel transformed into a literal nightmare from hell. Massive eyeballs and spiked tentacles sprouted out everywhere, turning the cozy room into a total horror movie. Kang Woo could only watch in terrified silence while his whole life flashed before his very eyes today. The monster wrapped its tentacles around the wooden chair, and it looked like game over for our boy. But then, just as quickly as it started, the beast shrunk back down into its tiny squirrel form. The creature explains how they were once terrifying predators who had to forcefully evolve their biology into cute forms just to avoid being hunted to extinction. The squirrel crossed its arms and acted like this whole biological makeover was just another day at work. It continued the long story, explaining how they had to hide their true power just to stay alive. Kang Woo was still sweating bullets, trying to process the fact that squirrels are actually eldritch horrors. The little guy described a beautiful paradise where they finally thought they could settle down in peace. It looked down for a second, and for a moment it actually seemed a bit sad about life. Then the mood shifted instantly as the tiny creature started screaming at the top of its lungs again. He screams back in pure frustration because he feels completely humiliated that such a pathetic creature managed to catch him off guard. While he remains trapped in those thick ropes, our boy stares at the beast and realizes he is completely at the mercy of its bizarre whims. It stared him down with those big pink eyes that now looked way more menacing than before today. A girl with long pink pigtails stood alone in a deserted urban wasteland as the wind blew past. The training room doors slid open with a heavy mechanical groan as the next session was about to begin. Inside, a trainee stood frozen with her sword drawn, staring at three small armored creatures that looked way too cute to be dangerous. From behind the observation glass, the instructor watched with a cold expression, waiting to see if the recruit would actually strike. She is paralyzed by hesitation as she struggles to find the courage to actually go through with her training mission. The little creatures chirped and hopped toward her, their tiny round bodies making it impossible for her to see them as threats. She swallowed hard, her resolve crumbling as she realized she was supposed to actually strike these things down. There was no way she could bring herself to hurt something that looked so completely innocent and harmless to her eyes. The tiny monster puts on a helpless act to make her feel guilty about swinging her blade at something so cute. She squeezed her eyes shut and gritted her teeth trying to force her body to move, but her empathy was winning the battle. She finally musters the strength to swing her blade, but the creatures are way too fast for her to land a clean hit. Watching from the sidelines, the guys could only sigh at the pathetic display of a recruit failing her very first test. She panicked, flinching away as the small monsters began to leap through the air directly toward her face. Her grip loosened on the hilt of her sword, leaving her completely defenseless against the incoming mob of armored fluff. The girl let out a scream as she fell backward, her hands flying up in a useless attempt to protect herself from the impact. Those cute little balls turned out to be heavy as lead, slamming into her and knocking the wind right out of her lungs. Within seconds, she was pinned to the floor, struggling under the weight of the creatures that were now crawling all over her body. Just as things looked hopeless, a heavy tactical boot came out of nowhere and sent one of the monsters flying across the room. A pair of specialized dual blades clicked into place, held by a veteran who clearly did not have any issues with hesitation. In a blur of motion, the blue-haired woman moved through the room, slicing through the air and ending the threat in a single heartbeat. She looked down at the trembling recruit with total disappointment, showing her exactly what a real soldier looked like in action. The girl scrambled back to her feet and took a defensive stance, but it was far too late to salvage her dignity. Confused and shaken, she watched as her instructor holstered her weapons without even breaking a sweat from the exertion. Her heart was still pounding in her chest, while she tried to process how she could have been so incredibly naive during combat. The instructor stared her down with a gaze that felt like it was cutting right through her soul with cold logic. Deep down, the veteran remembered a time when things were simpler, back when babies and cats were the only things worth protecting. She told the recruit that in this world, hesitation meant death, and mercy was a luxury they simply could not afford to have. The girl looked down at her sword, the weight of the instructor's words finally starting to sink into her stubborn head. She admitted that she always tried to avoid looking them in the eyes because she didn't want to see them as living things. Up in the observation deck, the men remained silent, knowing that this was a lesson every survivor had to learn eventually. A final confrontation was set, and this time, both the hunter and the prey were locked in a deadly stare of mutual survival. The recruit bit her lips so hard it nearly bled, finally finding the spark of rage she needed to move forward. She lets out a massive battle cry and puts her entire weight behind a swing that is meant to end this fight once and for all. This was the reality of their existence now, a never-ending cycle of conflict where only the strongest survived the war. Kang-woo is completely stunned as he finally realizes the terrifying truth about the situation he has found himself in. He was tied up tightly in a chair, facing off against a bizarre pink creature that looked like it belonged in a dream. Even while being held captive, he remains completely unfazed and begins planning his next move against his kidnapper. He lowered his head, acting like he had finally given up and accepted his fate at the hands of this weird little monster. But get this, while he was distracting the creature with his speech, something was happening behind his back that it didn't notice. Kang-woo kept talking about how they were enemies of humanity, playing the part of the defeated hero to absolute perfection. The pink squirrel thing hopped down, seemingly moved by his words or perhaps just getting overconfident in its easy victory. It reached behind him and began to work on the knots, showing a surprising amount of dexterity for a creature with tiny paws. The little guy looked so proud of itself, thinking it was making a new friend or perhaps just enjoying the power it held. Big mistake, because the moment the ropes went slack, our protagonist snatched the creature up in a grip of pure iron. Kang-woo bursts into the bathroom with the pink creature in his grip, ready to finish this nightmare once and for all. He shoves the little monster into the toilet water, hoping to drown his problems and flush them away for good. Bubbles rise to the surface as our boy struggles to keep the thrashing creature submerged in the bowl with pure force. Suddenly, the creature's eyes light up with a dangerous glow that signals things are about to go south very quickly. A sharp pain shoots through the hand of Kang-woo as the creature bites down hard and draws blood in its desperation. Our boy screams in agony, pulling back his wounded limb, while the furball launches itself into the air like a rocket. He winces from the pain, realizing too late that he has completely underestimated his tiny opponent and his lack of focus. The creature strikes with incredible power, hitting Kang-woo right in the face and sending him flying across the room. The impact is so sudden and heavy that our boy doesn't even have time to react or defend himself. Blood splatters through the air as the force of the blow rattles the brain of our protagonist and leaves him dazed. He collapses onto the cold floor, feeling totally humiliated by the fact that he just lost a fight to a tiny rodent. His pride is hurt even more than his head after that embarrassing defeat in the middle of his own home. While our boy groans on the ground, the pink creature stands tall and looks down at him with pure smug satisfaction. Kang-woo looks up with a face full of pure shock and disbelief, wondering how his life even ended up in this situation. He is panting and sweating, completely overwhelmed by the creature's strength and his own failures. He calls the creature a total bastard, but the little guy just laughs and tells him he is a fool for falling for it. Now tied up in a chair, our boy watches the pink monster casually chewing on a snack like nothing happened at all. He asks what the heck it is eating, feeling a deep sense of annoyance at the calm demeanor of the creature. The creature spits out a piece of trash and looks at him with those weird bulbous eyes that are totally unreadable. It wipes its face and prepares to drop some serious knowledge on our tied-up protagonist who can only sit and listen. Something small gets thrown across the room, clattering against the old furniture in the dim light of the messy apartment. A strange distortion appears on the ceiling while the creature continues to gloat from its position on top of the tissue box. Kang-woo can only watch in silence as the supernatural physics of this world begin to warp right before his eyes. The creature shows him a vision of a massive version of itself that looks like a total nightmare. It is huge and terrifying, making the little pink squirrel look like a harmless toy in comparison to this beast. Our boy is stunned to hear that the giant monster from before was actually just a hollowed-out corpse used for hiding. Our boy remains tied to the chair and forced to listen as the pink creature explains the terrifying reality of their situation. He can do nothing but sweat and try to make sense of the monster's cryptic words. His eyes widen behind his glasses as the pieces of the puzzle finally start to click into place in his mind. Kang-woo continues to argue with the little monster, demanding to know what is really going on in this cursed world. The creature reaches out a tiny hand, looking like it is about to make some kind of grand gesture or explanation. A sudden loud noise interrupts their conversation, making our boy jump and look toward the door in a state of panic. The sounds of someone selling spicy stew and drinking water drift up from the streets below. Kang-woo stands there wondering how anyone can be worrying about business when the world is ending and everything is falling apart around them. Nearby, a young woman is huddled on the floor and crying her eyes out because she cannot handle the stress anymore. She looks completely broken, sobbing into her arms as the world she once knew disappears into chaos and terrifying violence. Her eyes are red from crying, and she looks like she has lost all hope for the future in this nightmare. Up on the roof, a group of survivors is gathered together, trying to figure out their next move in this ruins. Kang-woo stands with his friend, both of them looking weary from the constant danger and the lack of any clear answers. The pink creature is hiding out in his jacket pocket, keeping a close eye on everything that is happening around them. Our boy notices a woman looking at him with a gaze that is absolutely filled with rage and judging every move. His friend makes a comment about how weird everything is, while an old man walks past them carrying heavy bags. Kang-woo thinks to himself that these people are just looking for reasons to be angry and miserable in this new world. He glares down at the little pink menace that is still loitering in his pocket like a parasitic little monster. Our boy grits his teeth and makes a silent promise to kill that creature the second he gets a clear chance. A family nearby is caught in a heated argument, adding to the already tense atmosphere on the crowded rooftop area. Suddenly, the sound of a heavy door sliding open catches everyone's attention, and the entire group goes silent as they turn to face the incoming threat. 3 intimidating men step into view wearing ridiculous animal hats that somehow look genuinely terrifying on them. Their overwhelming aura of strength instantly makes every other survivor on the roof look like helpless children. This seasoned warrior carries himself with the absolute confidence of a man who knows he is in charge of this entire operation. His arrogant smirk makes it clear that he isn't someone to be trifled with. Kang-woo and his friend stare at the new arrivals, feeling a cold chill run down their spines as the tension peaks. A guy is trying to trade some fresh fish for a small item, and his wife is absolutely losing her mind over it. She thinks trading food for junk is the worst idea she has ever heard in this wasteland. The husband tries to keep a straight face while she keeps yelling, but you can tell the tension in this group is reaching a breaking point. Survival really does bring out the worst in people. Meanwhile, the boss of the camp is standing there looking like a total tank while his second in command explains the situation. They are focused on the mission and not the petty drama. The leader raises his hand to signal everyone to quiet down because they have way more important things to worry about than a few fish. This dude has some serious presence. He walks over to an old man who is surrounded by stacks of books and asks him what he found in the ruins. Knowledge might be the only thing left worth trading in this world. The boss gives a rare smirk as he looks over the goods, and it seems like they actually found something useful for once. Dealing with the elderly in this world is always a gamble. Our boy Kangwoo is standing nearby with his round glasses looking like he is about to have a panic attack. His friend thinks there is no way the leaders will accept whatever Kangwoo brought. Kangwoo is sweating buckets because he knows his contribution is a little bit weird compared to everyone else. His buddy is just watching him with a look of pure judgment. The scarred leader turns his attention toward our protagonist and asks if he actually has the item they discussed earlier. The pressure in the air is heavy enough to crush a person. This big man has a look that says he does not tolerate failure, especially from someone as young and nerdy as Kangwoo. He is waiting for a real answer. Our boy stammers through his explanation while sweating under the intense pressure as he reconsiders every single life choice that led him to this terrifying moment. Suddenly, the entire crowd goes silent as the leader moves toward Kangwoo, and everyone starts wondering if the kid is about to get kicked out. The atmosphere is thick with suspense. A tiny and incredibly strange creature peeks its head out of Kangwoo's pocket, and it looks like some kind of mutant hamster in a hoodie. This is definitely not what they expected. The leader towers over our boy, and the size difference is honestly hilarious, but also terrifying at the same time. He is making his move, and it looks aggressive. Kangwoo gulps as the massive shadow of the boss completely covers his face, and he prepares for the absolute worst. His eyes are wide behind those glasses. Kangwoo gets caught completely off guard when this mysterious man grabs him by the jacket and lifts him right off his feet to deliver a very aggressive lecture. Everyone in the camp is watching with their mouths hanging open, while the weird little creature in his pocket just stares blankly at the violence. This is total chaos. Kangwoo is screaming at the top of his lungs because he thinks he is about to be ended right here on the spot. He is begging the big man to just stop. Tears are actually streaming down his face as he tries to explain himself, but the leader is not letting go of his grip. Our boy is having a complete meltdown. Nearby, two guys wearing animal hoodies are watching the scene unfold with very neutral expressions. It is just another day of weirdness in this post-apocalyptic world. The guy in the deer hat starts talking to his partner, and they seem more interested in the gossip than the actual safety of our protagonist. They are used to the boss being rough. The boss finally lets go and crouches down to look at Kangwoo, who is now lying on the ground looking totally defeated. He asks him a very serious question about his skills. With a grimace, the leader tells him that they need someone who actually knows how to handle the dangerous tech if they want to survive the coming battle. Kangwoo finds his voice and yells back that he is more than just a nerd, and he can definitely handle the responsibility. He is finally standing up for himself. They start discussing the plan involving explosives and bombs, which explains why the leader was being so intense about Kangwoo's technical abilities. One mistake, and they all die. The fighters in the animal hoodies look ready to go, even though their outfits make them look like they are headed to a costume party. Do not let the cuteness fool you. The atmosphere shifts completely as a terrifyingly adorable war is about to break out right in the middle of the urban battlefield, and things are about to get a whole lot more dangerous. Small yellow fluff balls called umpams start rolling into the area, and they look incredibly innocent, but the danger they represent is very real. They are the target for today. The battle kicks off, and the hoodie squad starts swinging flaming torches to keep the little monsters back, because the way they are panicking tells a completely different story about the danger. While the warriors are busy fighting, the swarm Kangwoo is off to the side working on a car engine. He has to rig a massive trap while the chaos unfolds around him. His friends are watching him from a safe distance, and they are genuinely worried that the kid is going to blow himself up before he can even help them. Kang-woo puts on a face mask and starts tinkering with the wires inside the hood of the car. He is trying to create a spark that will turn this vehicle into a bomb. He is sweating under the mask because the pressure of being the team's technician is finally starting to weigh on him. One wrong connection and it's all over. Our boy tells the others to bring him a corpse because his specific ability requires something biological to actually trigger the explosion. This just got very dark. The umpams are jumping through the air like lethal popcorn, while the deer hat guy tries to swat them down with his torch. These creatures are surprisingly fast and aggressive. The fighters are shouting instructions to each other as they try to keep the creatures distracted and lead them toward the trap Kang-woo is building. Communication is key here. The boss walks past the car and sees that Kang-woo is actually making progress despite the constant threat of being eaten by yellow fluffballs. He seems impressed but won't say it. He gives the kid one last stern look and warns him that everyone is counting on this trap to work perfectly. Failure is not an option for our boy today. Kang-woo holds a detonator in his hand, and you can hear his heart beating fast as he prepares for the final stage of the plan. He is more nervous than ever. Sparks start flying as he connects the final set of wires, and his eyes are filled with pure determination. He is finally proving that he belongs on this team. Kang-woo screams at the rest of the team to gather around him and hurry up before their window of opportunity closes. The other survivors watch the scene unfold with a mixture of doubt and exhaustion as they wait to see if the plan works. The fighters are sprinting away with everything they have while the swarm of umpams is right on their heels. The timing for this explosion has to be perfect. Kang-woo grips the trigger mechanism and looks like he is about to lose his mind from the stress. He is waiting for the exact moment to pull the rope. One of the fighters is still running past the car as the first of the yellow creatures starts to gather around the trunk. The trap is about to be sprung. The small yellow monsters begin to swarm the white sedan as the group uses the vehicle as bait to lure them into the kill zone. The rope tied to the door handle is suddenly pulled tight, and the mechanism inside the car clicks into place for the final payoff. Everything is set for the blast. One of the fighters sprints away from the trap to avoid getting caught in the massive explosion about to take out the swarm. Kang-woo and this grizzled veteran are ready to see their plan in action. The old man raises his fist as the tension reaches a boiling point for everyone involved. The mechanism finally triggers with a heavy click as the rope pulls the door handle to ignite the homemade bomb. The grizzled veteran watches the trap intensely to ensure that every single one of those creatures is wiped out by the blast. The sound of the massive explosion rings out as the reality of their success sets in. It is a blinding flash that signals the end of the swarm. Both of them dive for cover as the shockwave rips through the parking lot. Debris flies everywhere while they stay low to avoid the heat and the blast. Talk about a crowd pleaser. Everyone watching from the sidelines is absolutely stunned by the sheer scale of the fireball our boy just cooked up for the monsters. This girl in the hood cannot believe her eyes. She is completely frozen while watching the carnage unfold right in front of her in the middle of the street. Smoke rises from the wreckage as the dust starts to settle. Kang-woo picks himself up while the old man stands there like a total boss, surveying the damage. Suddenly, the old man reaches out and grabs this weird little mascot creature. It looks like a squirrel, but way more cursed than any normal forest animal should be. The old man stands tall, while a surge of strange, pink energy radiates from the monster he just crushed in his hand. Our boy just loses it and starts screaming his head off. His brain is probably melting trying to process everything that just happened in the last 5 minutes of chaos. The twisted little mascot looks absolutely terrifying as it lets out a silent scream with its bulging eyes and rotting teeth. Up on the balcony, the survivors are trying to figure out what the heck is going on. They can barely see through all the smoke and the setting sun. Time for a change of pace because a tray of hot soup appears. Nothing beats a warm meal after you almost get blown to bits by a car bomb. The survivors follow their noses and gather around the pot once they hear that a delicious spicy fish stew is on the menu. Kang-woo plays the role of the waiter and brings out the food to the hungry crowd. People are already begging for water and more portions as they gather around. Our boy looks a bit dazed while standing there with his glasses fogging up. He is definitely not used to being the center of attention for doing something so helpful. The veteran leader questions if it is possible to make these tactical items smaller and more portable for future missions. You can tell this old guy is a strategist at heart. He is constantly thinking about how to optimize their gear and tools for the dangerous fights ahead of them. The old man tells the protagonist to take a look around and decide right now if he is actually ready to commit to the cause. Everyone sits down on the grass to finally dig in. It is a rare moment of peace for a group of people who have been through hell and back. This guy is literally crying over his bowl because the food is just that good. Kangwoo watches him with a mixture of confusion and pity while they eat together. Even the mothers and kids are finally smiling. A simple bowl of stew is doing more for morale than any tactical victory ever could in this dark world. Seeing everyone happy actually brings a small smile to our boy's face. He realizes that his efforts and his cooking are making a real difference for these desperate people. He sits down with the orange-haired girl and they share a quiet meal together. The tension from the fight is finally starting to fade away into the background. She takes a big bite and looks like she is in heaven. Honestly, after a day like this, she deserves every single spoonful of that warm, spicy soup bowl. They share a look while chewing, and it is actually pretty wholesome. Our boy might be a demolition expert, but he has a soft side for his friends too. But then her expression shifts, and she looks down at the ground. You can tell there are some heavy thoughts weighing on her mind in the quiet moment. A quiet hallway with a plain apartment door. Everything seems normal, but in a world like this, that is usually a very bad sign. Back inside, Kangwoo is hanging out with that creepy mascot creature on the couch. It is just sitting there sipping on a juice box like it owns the place. Our boy tries to grab the little pest, but it is way faster than it looks. He lunges across the room and ends up grabbing nothing but thin air. He is totally fed up and calls the little creature a bastard. It is pretty funny seeing a guy who blows up monsters get bullied by a pink squirrel. The creature just keeps munching away with this smug look on its face. It knows exactly how to push all of our protagonist's buttons without saying a word. Kangwoo gives up and just sits there staring at the wall. He is exhausted, and the weird pet is definitely not helping him relax in his own room. A loud knock at the door breaks the silence. Kangwoo snaps out of it and looks toward the entryway with a suspicious expression while the mascot watches him. Kangwoo remains seated on the edge of the couch, staring at the front door with a suspicious expression. He wasn't expecting any visitors at this time, and the sudden knock has him on high alert. A voice from outside claims to be the neighbor from room 301. They say their door lock is broken, and they need some help getting inside. Kangwoo immediately realizes who is standing on the other side of that door and prepares to deal with the local idiot. He cannot believe this neighbor is actually bothering him after everything that has happened recently. Even the mascot looks curious now. It stops eating and stares toward the door like it can sense something that we cannot see through the thick wood yet. Our boy gets a serious look in his eyes as he reaches for his tools. He is always ready for a project, even if it is just a lock. He grabs his gas torch and prepares to head out and assist his neighbor with the broken lock. He has no idea that a simple request for help is actually a trap for a much more dangerous situation. Before opening up, he decides to check the peephole just to be safe. It is a smart move, considering the world has literally ended right outside his front door. He looks through the lens and sees the girl standing there with her arms crossed. She looks totally normal and a bit impatient for him to open the door. A terrifying dark shadow suddenly looms over the unsuspecting girl while she waits for him to unlock the door. This massive entity looks like a nightmare come to life, and it is clearly targeting the poor neighbor. Kangwoo's heart drops as he realizes what he is looking at. His eyes go wide, and he freezes up for a second in pure shock and disbelief. He starts frantically messing with the locks to make sure the door stays shut. He is not helping anyone if that massive thing gets inside the apartment room. His face is covered in sweat as he realizes how close they just came to disaster. This was not a neighbor asking for help from him at all. The massive creature outside reveals its true form as a blood-stained mascot with a row of giant jagged teeth. It floats there with a bone-chilling grin while staring directly into the apartment through the tiny peephole. She hides away in the shadows of her room, while feeling completely isolated from the world. Her mind drifted back to the chaos that turned her life upside down. She looked toward the door and wondered if she was finally ready to face the outside. Maybe the guy next door was not as bad as she initially thought. Even so, she hesitated, because barging in without a plan felt like a death sentence. She finally gathered her courage and pressed the doorbell with a shaky hand. On the other side of the door, our boy Kangwoo broke into a cold sweat. Peeking through the peephole, he spots his neighbor standing there, without any idea of the danger approaching. Behind her, a terrifying shadow loomed like a predator ready to strike its prey. Kangwoo froze as his heart skipped a beat at the sight of that monstrous figure. Our boy grabbed his improvised weapon, while his weird little companion watched in total silence. He blamed himself for being so complacent, while the world literally fell apart around him. There was no more time for hesitation, so he kicked the door open with everything he had. A swarm of deceptively cute winged monsters charges through the open door to hunt our hero. He desperately swings his improvised weapon to fight off the fluffy killers invading his home. His pink little friend stood there looking absolutely traumatized by the sudden explosion of violence. Kangwoo checked his surroundings to make sure nothing else was creeping up on them. The small creature looked on in total disbelief and wondered what was happening to them. A monster suddenly lunges at him with incredible speed and knocks him flat on his back. He managed to crush the creature against the wall, leaving a spray of pink goo everywhere. Exhausted and gasping for air, he sat on the floor while his companion regained its composure. The reality of this twisted new world finally started to sink in for our protagonist. It was a literal cute war, and nobody was safe from the adorable carnage. Later on, Kangwoo knelt beside a body covered in a white sheet in the middle of a hallway. The sight of the spreading blood makes the reality of this tragedy hit him with full force. His expression went blank as he tried to process how things had escalated so quickly. A bitter laugh escaped his lips, because the irony of the situation was just too much to bear. He forced himself to stand up, because he knew there were still people he needed to find. His pink companion looked up at him, wondering what their next move was going to be. The creature made a ridiculous face, as if it was trying to lighten the heavy mood. Kangwoo adjusted his glasses and locked in because the real mission was just beginning. He grit his teeth and prepared himself for whatever horrors were waiting behind the next door. Our boy started pounding on room 500, and 4 hoping for any sign of life inside. When nobody answered, he pulled out a power tool to bypass the electronic lock himself. He worked quickly while the little squirrel kept watch for any monsters creeping down the hall. Finally, the mechanism clicked, and the door swung open to reveal a dark and silent room. Kangwoo stepped inside with his weapon raised, and his heart racing against his ribs. His eyes widened behind his glasses as he caught sight of something terrible in the shadows. He found his grandpa lying in a pool of blood and let out a devastated cry. The sight of his grandfather's lifeless body in the middle of a bloodbath leaves him paralyzed with grief. Kangwoo can barely catch his breath as the pure exhaustion and shock of the battle finally start to weigh him down. He looks completely drained while trying to wrap his head around the absolute chaos that just went down inside his home. Kangwoo stands in absolute shock as he looks down at the lifeless body of the man he was just forced to kill. The horror on his face says it all as he tries to process the nightmare unfolding in his own home. That little pink monster Yomi just drops a truth bomb and casually mentions that its kind actually eats humans for breakfast. The fear in his eyes is replaced by a cold determination as he processes the terrifying reality of this new world. Panic starts to set in as he wonders if his friend Sangyun is also on the menu for these monsters. He rushes out and starts pounding on the door like a madman, hoping against hope that someone answers. With trembling hands, he fumbles with the electronic lock, while praying that he is not already too late to save his friend. The door swings open, and out walks Sangyun looking like he just woke up from a nap, while Kangwoo literally loses his mind and screams. Our boy was expecting a bloodbath, but found a sleepy guy instead. Sangyun just scratches his head and wonders why his buddy is acting like the world is ending right on his doorstep. Kangwoo tries to explain the absolute insanity that just went down back at his place, but his words are barely making sense. He locks in and realizes that they cannot just sit around waiting for the next attack to happen. The duo waste no time and head straight for the car, as Sang-yun keeps his makeshift flamethrower ready for any surprise attacks. They prepare to move out immediately, because staying in one spot for too long is basically asking for a death sentence. Kang-woo looks toward the ruins and desperately hopes that his family and friends might have somehow survived the initial chaos. The faces of the kind neighborhood mister and his beloved grandpa flash through his mind as he mourns the world they used to know. Sang-yun breaks the silence and asks the big question of where they are even supposed to go in a world this broken. He suddenly remembers the mysterious old man who talked about water merchants trading strange items and fresh fish among the ruins. Our boy slides into the driver's seat and prepares to navigate through the ruins of their city. They hold their breath as he turns the key, and relief washes over them when the engine finally roars to life. A massive cheer erupts in the parking lot as they celebrate a small victory in their desperate fight for survival. The car peels out and speeds down the empty highway as they leave their old lives behind for good. He keeps a close eye on the dashboard and fuel gauge to make sure they do not end up stranded in the middle of nowhere. The tension in the car is thick enough to cut with a knife as the two friends sit in silence. He tells Sang-yun that they need to focus if they want to make it through the night alive. Sang-yun leans back and closes his eyes for a moment, just trying to find some peace in the middle of a literal apocalypse. Kang-woo reflects on the cryptic warnings he received from the bearded man and realizes the apocalypse started much earlier than he thought. Kang-woo suddenly spots something dangerous on the road ahead and reaches out to warn his friend to brace for a sudden stop. The tires scream against the asphalt as the car comes to a violent and sudden halt in the middle of the dark highway. Sang-yun does not hesitate for a single second and throws the door open to deal with whatever is blocking their path. Kang-woo watches from the car with his heart in his throat as he tries to see what his friend is doing outside. Without showing an ounce of fear, Sang-yun delivers a massive kick that sends a small creature flying through the air like a soccer ball. He turns around and sprints back toward the safety of the vehicle before the rest of the pack can catch up with him. Sang-yun dives back into the passenger seat and frantically screams for his friend to floor it and get them out of there. The adrenaline must be hitting hard because he starts laughing like a total maniac, while Kang-woo just stares at him in disbelief. Our protagonist and Yomi exchange a look that basically says their friend has finally lost the last few marbles he had left. The hysterical laughter quickly turns into heavy sobbing as the weight of everything they lost finally crashes down on Sang-yun. The lone car speeds down the rain-slicked highway as they venture deeper into the unknown ruins of their once peaceful world.